Have you ever pondered about the lengths societies have gone to fit a certain ideal of beauty? Consider the ancient Chinese tradition of foot-binding, a practice that began over 1,000 years ago and continued well into the 20th century, a custom that held a profound cultural significance, yet was as controversial as it was widespread. Today we delve into the history and practice of foot-binding in China. In the late Tang dynasty around the 10th century, foot-binding emerged as a symbol of beauty and status. It began among the court dancers and courtesans who, in an attempt to elevate their charm and grace, started binding their feet to achieve a small and delicate appearance. Foot binding is said to have been inspired by a 10th century court dancer named Yao Niang, who bound her feet into the shape of a new moon. She entranced Emperor Li Yu by dancing on her toes inside a 6-foot golden lotus festooned with ribbons and precious stones. In addition to altering the shape of the foot, the practice also produced a particular sort of gait that relied on the thigh and buttock muscles for support. From the start, foot binding was imbued with erotic overtones. Gradually, other court ladies with money, time, and a void to fill took up foot binding, making it a status symbol among the elite. This lotus foot, as it was poetically referred to, soon caught the fancy of the upper class and before long became a prerequisite for women to marry into nobility. For families with marriageable daughters, foot size translated into its own form of currency and a means of achieving upward mobility. The most desirable bride possessed a 3-inch foot known as a golden lotus. It was respectable to have 4-inch feet, a silver lotus, but feet 5 inches or longer were dismissed as iron lotuses. The marriage prospects for such a girl were dim indeed. The process of foot binding was intricate and often started when a girl was between 4 to 6 years old. The feet were soaked in a warm mixture of herbs and animal blood to soften the tissue. Then the toes were curled under the foot and tightly bound with silk or cotton bandages. This painful procedure was repeated and tightened over time, eventually resulting in the desired lotus foot, a mere 3 to 4 inches long. Next, her arch was strained as the foot was bent double. Finally, the feet were bound in place using a silk strip measuring 10 feet long and 2 inches wide. These wrappings were briefly removed every 2 days to prevent blood and pus from infecting the foot. Sometimes excess flesh was cut away or encouraged to rot. The girls were forced to walk long distances in order to hasten the breaking of their arches. Over time, the wrappings became tighter and the shoes smaller as the heel and sole were crushed together. The bound feet were seen as an object of allure and a mark of refinement. They were often hidden beneath layers of embroidered shoes and long robes, adding to the mystery and desirability. Yet, beneath the surface, the reality was far from the romanticized image. The process of foot binding was excruciating and led to lifelong disabilities for many women. Despite the severe physical consequences, the tradition persisted for centuries, deeply ingrained in the fabric of Chinese society. It wasn't until the early 20th century, with the advent of Western influence and a growing wave of feminism, that the practice began to be questioned and criticized. By the mid-20th century, foot binding had largely been abandoned. The last shoe factory making Lotus shoes closed in 1999. It survived for 1,000 years in part because of women's emotional investment in the practice. The Lotus shoe is a reminder that the history of women did not follow a straight line from misery to progress, nor is it merely a scroll of patriarchy writ large. The painful tradition was seen as a symbol of China's feudal past and an infringement on women's rights. Today it serves as a stark reminder of the extreme lengths societies can go to in the pursuit of an ideal. This journey through the history of foot binding in China uncovers a complex interplay of beauty, societal pressure, and the human capacity for endurance. It's a testament to the ever-evolving standards of beauty and the resilience of those subjected to them. As we close this chapter, we're left to contemplate the many forms of beauty and the sacrifices made in its name. But remember, true beauty is not bound by pain or conformity, but found in the freedom and diversity of human expression.